Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Learn with me. Today we are going to discuss on the topic ABAP SDK for Google Cloud Services. Though SAP programming language has a lot of abilities to build a system, but when you want to connect your application to wide range of Google services and vast capabilities of Google Cloud, where the ABAP SDK for Google Cloud Services comes in. This is a powerful tool This is a powerful toolkit seamlessly integrates your ABAP application with Google Cloud Services, enabling you to leverage the power of many things like machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and more. In this video, we will look into ABAP SDK Cloud topic as a brief overview that demonstrates its prerequisites, architecture layer, the connectivity requirements, and the configuration process. Okay, we will see one by one. I will go to the next slide now. Okay, the first and foremost thing for the Google Cloud project to handle it with ABAP SDK, we need to have a project and a service account and the API keys should be available. So this section we are going to see how to set up these projects, service accounts and API keys. Anyway, I am not going to show you how to create a project and how to create a service account. I am going to show the already created project and already created service accounts and the API keys, so that these entities will be used when you are connecting the Google Cloud services from the ABAP SDK. Okay. This is the initial dashboard screen of your project. It will show you the project informations, your project name, project number, and the project ID. The project ID we have to note it down because this parameter we will be passing through ABAP SDK. Okay, so this is what the project means. The project should have the billable. The billable should be enabled for this project. Okay, now we will go to project settings. This project settings will show you the details. Based on your permissions, it will display the things. Okay, now we will go to this is my project name, and this is my project ID and project number and project location. Okay, now I will go to the service accounts. What are the service accounts I am going to create under this project? Actually, the project is nothing but it is a place where we are going to connect, or we are going to use the Google services. Okay, under this project we are going to create a service accounts. Okay, service accounts are nothing but it is the identification of your service. Like suppose you are going to call a translation service, then we will have an appropriate service account for this. It's not necessary that for each service we should create a service account. You can have a one single service account, call all the services. Just for the controlling access control purpose, we will create a different service accounts according to the services or according to the applications we are going to connect it to. So in this example, I have a service account created called demo security, for which I am going to use this service account for all the services I am going to call from ABAP SDK. Okay. Okay, now let me go to the user service account. It will take some time to load. Okay, this is my service account detail. So this is my service account email ID, which we will be using it as a parameter while passing from ABAP SDK. Okay, and this service account will have the individual permissions, whether you are having you are able to call the translation service, or you are able to call the security manager, or you can call the publications services, etc. Okay, now this service account should have a keys. This is like authentication keys. One key is based on the JSON and one key is based on the P12. So both the keys we have to generate and keep it ready, and note these key values. This is very important because these values we will be configuring in the SPRO section of ABAP. So the connectivity is established from ABAP SDK and to the Google services is authenticated by these keys. So we have to note it down, the keys. Okay, that's all. So these are all the main entities we have to note it down. One is the project information, the project ID, and the service account ID, service account email ID, and API keys. So these we have to note it down. And having this setup ready, then we can go for the authentication setup at the SAP level. Okay, now I will close this. We will see that in the next section, how to configure this in SAP. However, this creation of project, service accounts, and authentication setup in SAP will be done by the system administrator or the basis consultant. In this section, I am just going to show you the places where it has been configured and created. Okay, we will see in the next section in a while. Okay, now we will see the ABAP SDK is installed in my system and where we can find out this ABAP SDK in our system. Initially, we can go to SPRO and go to the reference. There you will find the new item called ABAP SDK for Google Cloud. So these are the main three places where we are going to configure the ABAP SDK. The basic settings will help you to configure the client keys. This is the place where we are going to use that authentication keys what we have seen in the last session, like API key and P12 keys. In this place we will configure the things, and for each service we will make a service mapping using SM59 and some of the other parameters, and using API key we will going to configure for SSF authentication. And these are all the utilities we can validate those authentication services which ABAP SDK provides us to verify that. There are some code wizards and is also there, so that you can generate a code for using these services. Also you have some demo programs for connecting to the services. For example, document AI program, and publication and subscription, translation, cloud storage, and secret manager, those things. So by identifying these things, you can say that the ABAP SDK is installed in your system. Apart from that, you can also go and see a lot of types and tables are created using GOOG/GOOG star, so that you can see some tables are created where these parameters are maintained, the connectivity parameters are maintained. There are some data types also there, data elements are there. All these things will be created automatically when the basis guy installed your ABAP SDK in your system. In a short way, we can say that the SDK is uninstalled by downloading the package from Service Marketplace, and they will extract it and they will import it as a transport request. So that's all. So by this way you can see that in our system ABAP SDK is available. Just go to SPRO and do that. You can see that here. And also you can write some small programs to use that classes. Okay, that's all. So we have seen that the project creation and the things. And now we have seen the ABAP SDK is installed in our system. In our next section, we will see the places where the authentication is configured in the SPRO side. Okay, bye. Okay, now in this section we are going to see how the SPRO configuration is done for the connectivity purpose, meaning the authentication process, so that the ABAP SDK can connect to Google Cloud using that the authorized key. Okay, so basically this will be done by the basis consultant. However, I am just going to highlight the points where the configuration are done and what are the steps we can follow it. You can see that by this URL cloud.google.com authentication. This URL I mentioned in my description column. You can see that there they will specify the steps to authenticate. This means authenticate the authentication setup for the ABAP SDK for Google Cloud. So this will explain the SPRO configuration in detail. If you follow these steps, you yourself can configure it. Okay. Now I will see that in SPRO section. I will go to ABAP. So very first thing what you have to do is go to the T code SSFA. In SSFA, these two entries will be created: API key encryption for GCP and JWT signature for GCP. These two configuration we have to do it. To have this entry in place, there will be a table where we have to enter some values. In the table SSFA PPL is in this table. There are two entries we have to enter. These two entries, either G APK and either G JWT. I just followed the document. I gave the same name as it is. Probably we can also give a different name, but accordingly we have to use that name. Suppose you are giving a XYZ here, use wherever they specify the GAPK, you can say XYZ. So I just followed the document. I gave the same name like this. So these two entries will be created in this table using SM30 or SE16 itself. You can create it. Once you created it, then in SSFA these two entries will be appearing, so that you have to just query it and save it. If you press new entries in the drop down, these two entries will be appearing. Then by default some values will be coming. Save the default as it is. So that makes the things. Now after entering this, you have to go to STrust. In STrust you have to import that the key which you have generated. You remember in the last section I mentioned the key for your service account. Whatever the service account you are creating, for that you will be generating two keys, a JSON key and a P12 key. So you have to import this P12 key into STrust here. So what happens is, when you created a P12 key, it will download a p12.psc file in your download directory. So transfer this download directory and import it in your SAP system here using strust, so that these three things, this JWT signature will be established. Once this signature is established, that means from ABAP SDK you can connect to Google Cloud using this signature maintained here. Okay. Same way there is another API key, this one. I can also use SSF API key for GCP. So JSON key will be imported here and p12 key will be imported here. So now full authentication is set up. I repeat, there are two things. One is, first go to SE16 and in this table you enter these two values. Enter these two values, either GAPK and either JWT. Once that is done, then go to SSFA. In SSFA, I think it is already opened. In SSFA, these two will be appearing. Once you started new entries, in the drop down, that API, these two will be appearing. Then save the entries. So these entries will be created. Then go to strust. Then go to strust. In that, you have to import that two keys, whatever the key you generated here, JSON key and p12 key. Remember, if it is a ECC, then it will create a p12 key. We have to convert p12 to pse, .p12 to .pse. Only then you can import it here. It is a pse file, pse. Okay. Once this is imported, the whole signature is maintained, authentication is maintained. Finally, you have to go to SPRO, then go to ABAP SDK, go to basic settings and configure key. In the configure key, you have to enter this entry, JWT service account. You can give your own name here, that one. Here you have to give your the service account email ID, and this is the scope of the thing. You enter the as it is, and you have to give the project identifier, project ID. You remember I told you that these are all the things we require to note it down. And this is the authentication class, this JWT authentic class, so that it will use the strust to confirm. That's it. So once this is maintained, this key what we call as a client key. So whenever we are calling a Google service, we have to pass a key where we will specify this name. Okay, this is called a client key. So once this client key is maintained, then we are all done. Now we can use the Google services using this client key. Okay, so this is how the SPRO, the authentication configuration is done here. For more detail, you can verify that URL. I will maintain this URL in my description column. You can use that. You follow this instruction, and so that the authentication is maintained. Finally, in SPRO, that client key has to be maintained. Then use that client key for all your API call. So if you go back here, if you refer back here, so this will tell you from which service account you are coming in. So using then from which project you are coming in, and this authentication class will refer to your signature maintained in SAP side. Finally, the request will be approved, otherwise the request will be denied. That's it. This is the configuration. In the next section, we will see a small program, how I am going to call a service and get the value. Okay. Okay. So far we gone through the basic architecture of the Google Cloud project and the ABAP SDK in together. The very first section we saw in the Google Cloud account, we should have an account and we should have a project and we should have a service account and the appropriate authorization keys. So how the project should be, how the service account should be, and how the API keys should be. We saw that. And secondly, we know that we have the SAP application in place. So on top of that, we installed the ABAP SDK. So we went through the ABAP SDK section in the SPRO section and the related ABAP types and classes, how they are installed. So we saw that. The last section we saw that is how to authenticate this ABAP SDK to connect to Google Cloud using S-Trust and the API key is what is generated in the section A. So this is the overall picture. So in the next video, let us see the one by one service. Example, the document AI service, the secret manager service, or publication and subscription service, and also the validate address service. These are the 4 samples. We can see that. The next video I will provide all this information in a step by step and also show you the code and other details. Okay, thank you so much.